King Logan, tyrant or misunderstood? Find out the answer to that question and more in this week's episode of Brock and Sindri.
King Logan is the central antagonist turned possible supporting character in the first half of Fable 3. He is the tyrannical ruler of the Kingdom of Albion, after the death of his parent, the hero of Bower Lake, and is the older sibling of the hero of Brightwall, which is the protagonist of Fable 3.
As the eldest child of the hero of Bower Lake, Logan ascends to the monarchy shortly after their death, or his death, I think it's pretty much been established, and appoints Walter as his royal advisor. Once in power, Logan continued to power Albion's industrial revolution, but was nevertheless, I can never say that word, still seen as a just ruler in the early years of his rule. He is later seen as a tyrant due to his treatment of the kingdom and its people, as he attempts to raise an army and is seen to value industry over human suffering.
For most of his rule, Logan continued to fuel the Industrial Revolution as a just ruler as his parents did before him. However, 4 years before the start of Fable 3, he travelled to the continent of Aurora and ended up passing through Shadelight, where he came in contact with the Crawler and his minions. In the ensuing battle, all of his men were quickly slain, and he would have been killed too if it were not for Kalin, the new leader of the city of Aurora. As thanks, he promised the Aurorans that he would protect them from the darkness, which had readily destroyed most civilization on Aurora. Upon his return home, the blind seer Teresa appeared and told him that the darkness would come for Albion in 5 years' time, destroying every vestige of life with no regard to pity or mercy. This revelation, combined with his own personal experience of the darkness and the Crawler, resulted in him devoting everything to the creation of an army to defend his country from the forthcoming invasion.
In his efforts to save the land he loved, Logan became a hated tyrant all across Albion and was largely responsible for the unprecedented suffering that befell its people. He increased the tax, effectively shut down schooling and education, and forced the people to work long hours in the factories. When even this was not enough, Logan turned the running of the country's industry and the economy over to Reva, who effectively cut wages by 100% and introduced both slavery and child labour. He also set about replacing the royal army with his fanatical elite soldiers, sending those who protest to posts where they are likely to die. This was the fate of the Swift Brigade.
During the opening scenes of Fable 3, a factory worker was executed, causing a mob of angry citizens to protest outside Bowerstone Castle. And when approached on the issue, Logan orders the mob to be killed. However, when Walter confronts him about it in the war room, he is struck down by one of Logan's guards. The hero steps in alongside their childhood friend, and after talking for a couple of minutes, they go to the throne room where Logan gives the player the power to decide what happens next. Logan, feeling betrayed by his own blood, makes his sibling choose between the lives of their friends, either Elise or Elliot, or the lives of the riot leaders. Whichever the player does, Logan will abide by it. If the player chooses neither, so they don't select anything in time, Logan will execute both the friend and the riot leaders. When the hero remarks, "I will never forgive you for this," after the choice is made, Logan replies, "Good, then you will never forget it," showing how heartless he can be even towards his own family. Whatever the decision made, the hero, having witnessed Logan's tyranny firsthand, decides to leave the castle with Walter to lead a revolution for the crown.
When the hero of Brightwall and Walter storm the war room at the end of the Revolutionary War, Logan surrenders without a fight, but not before having a quick exchange of words with his little sibling in Walter. Soon after that, Logan is put on trial and explains why he acted as he did. If the hero decides to spare Logan, he admits that he is glad to be rid of the throne, and you meet him once more at Walter's memorial, where he admits, "You did what he couldn't, you saved the kingdom." Whether you raise the money for your army or not, he is impressed that the kingdom still stands. Logan subsequently leaves Albion to parts unknown to make amends for his transgressions, knowing that its safety is in good hands.
So in terms of his relationships, despite being a tyrannical ruler who was generally cold and suspicious towards most people, Logan seems to genuinely care for his younger sibling. The act of making the hero choose between the group of demonstration leaders and the Elise/Elliot best friend could be interpreted as an attempt to show the hero what difficult choices a king must eventually make, and through that, make the hero understand his reasoning in order to gain their respect for what Logan is doing. This is shown when, and after the hero has responded to the ultimatum and states that they will never forgive Logan, as we said before, he replies with "good, then you will never forget it," which emphasizes that he is doing it to teach the hero rather than to just be cruel. Furthermore, when the hero and Walter corner Logan in the castle during the revolution, Logan draws his sword as they come in, but then sheaths it and surrenders once he sees that it is his sibling. He also mentions that my brother or sister deserves to know the truth, and that you have finally become the man/woman I always wanted you to be. After Logan is dethroned, if he is spared, he is thankful and even more proud of the hero for taking the throne.
Well, once he had assumed the throne of Albion, Logan had taken Walter Beck, the hero of Bowerstone's close friend, as his royal advisor. However, it is made clear that whatever cordial relationship the two may have once had, that Logan has no intent of letting Walter sway his methods or his way of thinking, ordering his royal guard to beat Walter when he begs Logan not to fire upon the protesters. Despite this, Logan, if spared, still attends Walter's funeral, perhaps indicating that he still thought well of his parents' friend. I think that's a mistake, isn't it? Hero of Bowerstone's close friend, isn't that? Oh no, it is Hero. Sorry, apologies. Yeah, it is, because that's the hero of the second game.
Yeah.
The second game. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first bit of trivia here is Logan was first shown in the E3 trailer released on June 14th, 2010.
And he's also voiced by, at this point, pretty famous actor Michael Fassbender. And I do remember when that was announced, because you remember 2010, 2011 when this game came out. It's pretty, like video games didn't have lots and lots of big, Hollywood actors at this point. There was a few names that were coming through, notably in this series, and to have Michael Fassbender in there was quite a coup.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty big name to have, especially in hindsight as well. The next bit of trivia here is he is the first of the Fable hero siblings to be a guaranteed male rather than female. Obviously, in previous games we had Teresa and also Rose.
Yeah, and he's also pretty mean. So
yeah.
So the name Logan actually means hollow in Gaelic, which possibly refers to some of his tyrannical ways. But the Gaelic usage of hollow refers to like a canyon or a crevasse, which may be used to explain the scars that decorate his lower face.
It is revealed in the novel that the reason why Logan never told Albion of the crawler is because he fears that nobody would believe him, since he tried to tell his close associates about it and they believed that he was going through trauma after his time in Aurora.
In the launch trailer, he is shown to be wearing the current crown of Albion.
Apparently, Logan commissioned a set of hammers called Trollblight in his successful campaign to exterminate every last troll in Albion.
Once the player becomes king/queen of Albion, Logan can be executed for his actions. Though it may seem as justified, the player will lose 100 morality points for having him executed. On the other hand, the player will gain 100 if they choose to pardon Logan. If pardoned, he will appear at Walter's memorial services mentioned after the crawler is defeated.
His desperation to save Albion is shown by handing control of Bowerstone Industrial over to somebody as dodgy as Reaver.
Teresa claimed that if Albion were to survive, a hero needed to be on the throne instead of Logan, who would doom it to destruction. This indicates that Logan, unlike his brother/sister, is not actually a hero.
After opening the music box, the player will encounter a vision explaining how Logan talks about Albion being his, and how its people shall do as he says, or they will die. He also says, "This is my Albion, and I will see it destroyed before I surrender it." Then Teresa makes a remark, "If any part of you still has doubts about a revolution, you have your answer." However, at the end, Logan reveals to the player that he became a tyrant because he wanted to save Albion from the crawler, and that he was actually glad to be rid of the throne. It is also revealed that Teresa was the one who warned him about the crawler's inevitable attack on Albion, which caused him to become a tyrant in the first place. This could be an oversight on the developer's part, or that it simply means that Teresa was trying to manipulate the player into becoming the leader of the revolution.
It is also possible that as Teresa claims to have shown the hero what he or she needed to hear in order to gain the throne to save Albion, Logan could have actually been referring to the fact that he would rather see Albion destroyed than surrender it to the crawler. But without context, you are meant to assume he's talking about the revolution.
It is also quite likely that Teresa means that Logan is too incompetent or otherwise handicapped to successfully fight against and defeat the Crawler, and so must be disposed by a more competent leader if Albion is to brave the storm intact.
A portrait furniture piece of Logan can be dug up in the Bowerstone Castle gardens when your dog reaches a high enough exploration skill level, which is grade 5.
It is implied that Logan is capable in battle, seeing how he survived a fight against the Crawler on one of his expeditions to Aurora, like we said, as well as surviving the final fight between Albion and the Crawler if the hero chooses to spare his life.
The player can also find an address from Logan in Bowerstone Industrial in an alleyway nearby one of the gnomes. In the voiceover, Logan makes a patriotic yet stern appeal to the citizens of Albion, asking them to ready themselves for war without question. His sentiments seem to be a protection of his own severe sense of duty, summarised in his closing words: "You will give every ounce of strength, and you will offer your very lives if Albion asks for them. And even then you will never cease to be, for as long as Albion lives, then so will you live too."
Logan appears to be left-handed.
Oh, what a bloody freak. It's settled now, he's definitely no question left. You get a choice on the status of Teresa and Logan, who are obviously your in-game siblings in the first and third Fable games. You also have a lesser sort of sense of control over Rose's fate in Fable 2, as you may choose to resurrect her, but she's always going to be dead.
Yeah, even though Logan is seen wearing the crown in the trailer and pictures, he is never actually seen wearing it in-game.
And his facial features and clothes in game play are slightly different than in cutscenes.
In the Fable 3 Limited Collector's Edition card deck, Logan is the King of Spades.
Coolest card deck in the world.
Yeah, it really is.
If you spare Logan and he appears at the memorial of Walter, he still wears the king's suit.
Strangely, if you choose to execute Logan, the cutscene depicting his execution by firing squad shows him wearing his same outfit, including the armor on his chest.
Early concept art of Logan, as seen in Lionhead's Fable 3 video diaries, depicted him having a handlebar mustache.
During the Crawler's final battle, Logan can be seen in the general goods store window.
There's also a statue of Logan at the back of Bowerstone Castle.
The recruiting poster featuring Logan that can be seen during loading screens is based on the Lord Kitchener Wants You recruitment post of the British Army during World War I.
Yeah, that's also quite a cool
Classic.
one that comes up quite a bit.
Yeah.
In the same recruiting poster, Logan does appear much larger in build. He's also wearing a different outfit. His facial hair is a bit more grown, and the crown he wears is more pointed. So it sounds like propaganda at work.
Logan will say the same line: "You have the choice between life and death," in the beginning and end of the first chapter of the game. The first time will be the choice of killing Elise or Elliot, or the protest leaders, and the second time will be the choice to kill Logan himself or not.
When the hero is escorting Elise or Elliot, they will remark, "Aren't you lucky having a statue of your brother outside your window? Give me nightmares."
The quote, "This is my Albion, and I will see it destroyed before I surrender it," may be a reference to King Louis III, who said a similar phrase about England.
His outfit seems to be a slimmed-down version of the king's suit the player can receive. However, his is much thinner and has slimmer gloves. His overall appearance is thinner and taller than the player can become, even at 0 weight and full stature.
In the novels, acting as sequels to the events of Fable 3, it is stated that Logan had been pardoned by his brother. However, his whereabouts after the events of the game are never revealed.
So, there's one question that remains from all of this about Logan that I like. I mean, well, there's two questions, and the first one is, Logan good or bad? Misunderstood or kind of, evil tyrant? And, I think we probably know the answer to that one by now. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the game does a good job of sort of setting you up with what you need to hear so that you can, have this good storyline of leading the rebellion, and then eventually, you come to learn the truth of it near the end.
Yeah, I think that it's actually a good example of Lionhead sort of when they did build a character, they actually could build one really well. So I think he's obviously a guy that takes his position as king very, very personally, and very, he respects the post of being king. and he saw a danger that he didn't know how or couldn't communicate to the people of Albion, but still needed to do what it took to protect them from it, protect Albion from it. And unfortunately, I think he probably just took that a bit too far and maybe lost the individual humanity points on the way, and forgot that, okay, it's great, all very well protecting your people from outside danger, but don't be an internal danger. I think he just lost his way on that.
Yeah, I think, if anything, the best description of Logan is just misguided. And I think that's not entirely his fault, because, like we've sort of been saying, there is a massive external threat that just completely consumed his every thought as king. And I guess to top that off as well, Teresa was also sort of giving both Logan and the younger sibling who you play as not necessarily misguided advice, but definitely not giving the advice that she needed to give to get the results she wanted, rather than for the absolute best of the kingdom. So you can also entirely blame Teresa in a lot of cases for some of the suffering that happened during the game. So it's just
which is fair to say that in many of the games,
in pretty much all of them. So
yeah. And then I guess the other question that remains, and it may be something thinking off the top of my head that we may need to address in another video, because it's hard to find lore on this, so it may need some theories, but Logan's campaign to rid Albion of trolls. Be very interested to look into that, because that sounds pretty interesting to me. Why trolls weren't in Fable 3 at all. I don't know if you remember that from your playthrough, but I have to say I played through Fable 3 probably 3 times, so not an awful lot of times, but 3 times, and probably in the first 2 times I played it, I never even noticed. I honestly never even noticed.
Well, I would say that logically it probably stands to reason that the developers just didn't think that there was any place for another troll boss or anything like that, so they probably just didn't put it in, and then they were like, yeah, we'll just make the lore reason that Logan's great campaign slaughtered them all. So definitely quite interesting, though. I'm sure there's some, could be some lore there.
It also makes a little bit of sense, in terms of, if you think about Industrial Revolution, I mean, that's going to be, so give or take about 200 years ago from now, so in the sort of early to mid 1800s or so, and around that time, obviously Albion being sort of like a stand-in for the UK, and Bowerstone being a bit of a stand-in for London. You think about London, they had these great stories of like vampires and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and werewolves, but it was the beginning of a time where people stopped believing so much in that kind of stuff. And if you look at Fable through the years, like the first Fable had a lot of different creatures, and it was basically villages plus Bowerstone, which at that point was still kind of a village, and so they have a lot of magical beasts and whatnot. And then by the second game, it was a little bit less in terms of some of the stuff, like it was a lot of bandits and fighting Lucian as opposed to a dragon like in the first one, and then by the third one it's kind of like you're fighting, you think the story is basically fighting a revolution, which is absolutely not steeped in magic at all, and there are some creatures to be fought, but it's less on that, and it almost is a good parallel for our own kind of human history.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely, I think Fable as a trilogy so far has definitely told the story. I think it's pretty much confirmed at this point by the developers as well. The whole point was it was telling the story of like the leaving an age of like myths and sort of legends and coming forward into more realism in Fable 3 with it goes from just swords and magic and bows to guns in the end as well, like the earlier guns. So
pretty much,
I think that's definitely reflected in the fact that a lot of the enemies are like eradicated or just missing, because obviously the world is now more filled out with towns and cities rather than the little like villages.
So is Playgrounds Fable 4 just going to be fighting against Hitler and the Nazis then?
We're definitely getting there, aren't we? I wonder. I wonder if that's what we're going to see. No, I don't think so.
We'll definitely do a video at some point, I think, with theories on the troll, like the troll war, Logan's anti-troll campaign, because I think that is a fantastic, very intriguing bit of potential lore.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's not, there's just not enough definitely written down lore to go into that. So we're going to have to do a bit more research on theories, but we will. But we also want to hear what you think about Logan. Was he a good character? Was he a good antagonist / ally by the end, potentially, if you spared him? You tell us what you think. I certainly think he was a good character, and I think Michael Fassbender did a really good job in the lines that he had as well.
Yeah, definitely, and I think, with that's all we've got for Logan from Fable 3. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll have to see you next time.